You know what I really am? I'm my main gift from my parents. I was born May 12th, 1907, despite everything I may have said to the contrary, in Hartford, Connecticut, 22 Hudson Street, then opposite the Hartford Hospital. The street doesn't exist anymore. The hospital grew over it. We were a big family. Dad and Mother had 6 children over a period of 15 years. Tom, Kath, Dick, Bob, Marion, Peg. We were a happy family. I was much older than my sisters. To them, I was really another grown-up. They were 11 and 13 years younger than I am. Bob and Dick were closer, but they were boys. When I went to college at 17, they were 11 and 13. As children, they used to visit me in New York. I'd take them to the theater, to movies, museums, all the excitements. I was a sort of rich aunt, and we had great fun together.
Happy birthday, dear sister. How are you? I hope you are feeling fine. Mommy hopes so too. I am not. I am in your room. Mommy put me there. The whole family is going to see the big parade at Parsons Theater. Yours, Richard.
You are sweet to write me so often, and so are the babes. I adore learning about things and am always very disappointed when I come back and find no letters awaiting me. I hope you aren't having too dull a summer. It's too bad in this world that one always seems to have either too desperately much or too desperately little to do. I miss you all frantically, but it won't be long now. Huge love and kisses all around, and especially to you and Dad. I adore more than you will ever know. Tell Dad my health is never better and that I haven't been touched yet by strikers.
What can I say? The luck of having Dad and Mother. They really loved each other. Dad with his red hair and his hot temper. Some say I'm like him. I hope so. I would be so proud. Mother with a real savvy of life. She adored him. She adored us. She was deep. She was witty. Some say I'm like her. I hope so. I'd be so proud.
I miss you all desperately. Do write. I love to hear what's happening. I sometimes think children who are cordially bored and dislike their parents have a great advantage over anyone as hopelessly bound up in sentiment, love, and admiration as I am. You and Dad mean everything to me, so for heaven's sake, be careful of yourselves. I feel 1,000,000 miles away. Endless love, Kay. Ma, darling, my silence has been due to the fact that for 2.5 weeks I've been working every day from 6 to 9 and twice from 6 to 12. Hence I've not had time to touch pen to paper. Isn't it exciting about the house? I can't wait to see it. You were angels to be so excited that you went down there. That's where our family beats any other. We're capable of real excitement, which very few people are capable of. Dearest Dad, this week you get $2,200. Spitfire has so far grossed $400,000 in America. The foreign business is not good because they can't understand the dialect. They expect it to reach $635,000. Its cost $420,000. They will make $200,000, and I get 12.5% of this. Of course, this is hypothetical, and I never expect to see it, but there are possibilities. You are an angel to take so much trouble for me. Lots of love. Naturally, I'm delighted to donate anything to any of my sister's enterprises, but only on condition that my mail from them shows a decided increase. I've had one from Peg and none from Marion. I am feeling very gay today, first because I enjoy writing you, and second because this is my first day off, and a most beautiful day it is. My health is excellent, as are my spirits, and I hope yours are the same. Love to Dad. Tell him I adore my mounting income more than he does, and that I owe nothing except, of course, the tax. I will have the deductions figured out very soon, and that he is an angel to take so much trouble, and ask him if he hasn't anything for me to sign. Love to all the tribe. I loved the pictures taken on the boat, leaving New York and arriving in London. A more fascinating threesome I cannot imagine. Well, I hope that all goes well and that you are having a good time. I begin Sylvia Scarlett in 2 weeks, July 23rd, and shoot for 10 weeks, so we'll be in the midst of it when you get back. Let me know if you need anything. Love and kisses to all. Dearest M., what do you think of this writing paper? Probably it would have looked better engraved in blue, but it's for business and love letters, which I never write. Well, it seems too extraordinary for Marion to be at college. She wrote me a wonderful letter and seems to think it's wonderful and biology is wonderful, and she had the sense not to tell me about economics. I'm glad she is so pleased. Peg seems to think it was great, too. Speaking of Peg, I think that she should study dancing with the same man, or a better one if she sees fit. Also, and this would be very carefully considered, it has been a great handicap to me not to be able to play the piano at least enough so that someone else could play, and I could fake it by making my hands look as if they were playing. When you think of how much this would be in her pocket if she decides to do something in the theater, I don't believe at all in her studying with Duff or anyone like that. But I do mean singing, dancing, and playing piano as accomplishments, which can do her nothing but good no matter what. If I could do those things plus the things I can, to think of where I'd be. So, all the kids have gone to be educated. It must seem terribly queer to you to have Peg go too. Sad and yet satisfactory. At least you know that they are all happiest when they're back where they started. How few parents can say that. What a relief it is to want to get away, and what a relief to us to get back. Funny what a poor basis for living most people's childhood gives them. They usually either overcome it between 18 and 25, or it overcomes them, and I have only to call on mine, and it gives me everything. You and Dad should be very proud, because you are unique in my experience. Thank God you're mine. My darling Snooky, you have no idea what a wit I have become with my Jackie stories. In our group they make the most tremendous hit. You must always write me the new ones. I keep thinking of him concentrating madly and falling into the rocky abyss. I must run to the studio. You were an angel to write. Give a big hug each to Jack and Kath and Eli and yourself. To JBG, my broomstick is broken and I am stuck here in Chicago. Next year we will meet at midnight.
Dad went to Randolph-Macon College in Virginia, took a B.A., then an M.A., then he went to Johns Hopkins in Baltimore to study medicine. Dad was offered several very good jobs in New York hospitals, but he thought New York a poor place to live. Mother and Dad were married. They moved to Hartford. They wanted to have a big family. At the beginning, Mother and Dad lived opposite the Hartford Hospital, where Dad was an intern, and then he was a resident. They were both dedicated to the bettering of the position of men and of women. My mother, Catherine, was filled with her mother's feeling about the future. She wanted to go to college, to Bryn Mawr. She wanted to lead her younger sisters in the right direction. She went to Bryn Mawr. I felt the enormous effect my grandmother must have had on my mother, who was the eldest, so my mother was the one who received the powerful philosophy of George Bernard Shaw. Don't give in. Fight for your future. Independence is the only solution. Women are as good as men. Onward. Mother had a booth at the Connecticut Fairgrounds, and we had a gas cylinder in the booth so that we could fill balloons. Votes for women balloons. Purple, white, and green. I was about 8. I used to fill the balloons, tie a 6-foot string onto them, go out into the street, pursue visitors to the fair, follow them until they were willing to accept one of my balloons, whether they wanted one or not.
Dear Santa Claus, from Catherine Houghton Hepburn, I would like to have some dolls' bedclothes and a wristwatch and a 3-railed electric train and some batteries, please.
We ran the Russian movie called We Are From Kronstadt at the studio yesterday. What a picture. If you get a chance to see it, do, because you'll probably go to Russia and stay there afterward. The ex-Mary of Scots group ran it together and all came out waving the red flag. I'm having it run tonight for Leland and Teresa Helburn and George Cukor. I hope they like it as well. Dearest M, I suppose that now you're in Fenwick, and how I envy you. Bob sent me a map of how Dad has rearranged things, and I imagine that it is very grand. I haven't done much work since I talked to you on the telephone. It is certainly too bad that we are not there to have fights about the CIO. I am becoming so well informed you would hardly know me. Of course, my teacher is only slightly prejudiced in favor of the plutocrats. I seem to be just a reed blown thither of you by persons with wild beliefs to extreme right or extreme left.
Dear Marion, I know how punctilious you are about business matters, so I am enclosing your bank statement and another communication from the bank, which I assure you I have not read in spite of the fact that I have taken them out of their envelopes. You may be sure that whatever financial sins you committed are still unknown by the wolf. Of course, in your busy public life, I do not expect many personal communications in regard to the exigencies of your life, but I wish you would tell your private secretary, Miss Associated Press, that we have received no word in regard to your life for several days, and are feeling quite concerned about it. Her last report was encouraging. I hear that you do not intend to go on the stage or write poetry or plays. This was received with a sigh of relief from your sister Catherine and brother Richard. Your father and brother Bob, the two non-career members of the family, noted the episode with scientific interest. Your mother and Peg did not express their emotional reaction other than to say, "Doing very well, I think." We all thought the picture clever, charming, professional, or good, according to our several natures. We miss you a lot, but I know you will have a good time wherever you are. Have Miss Press write me soon. Affectionately, Dad.
Mother and Dad were perfect parents. They brought us up with a feeling of freedom. There were no, rules. There were simply certain things which we did, and there were certain things which we did not do because they would hurt others. There you were, strong, funny, 2 rocks. What luck to be born out of love and to live in an atmosphere of warmth and interest. On Sundays and holidays, we'd walk in the woods. We'd climb, we'd swing trees, climb up as high as we could, then, holding on as tight as possible, we'd swing our legs out, bend the treetop over to the ground. It was great fun. Because of Dad, we were the center of action, and because of Mother, we were always able to provide cookies and ginger ale or sarsaparilla or birch beer. But the greatest gift she gave us was freedom. Freedom to be noisy. Freedom to yell. Do it, yes, do it. Tell me about it.
Ma, darling, I am now somewhere about 5 hours out of Chicago drinking a lemonade and feeling very well. During my 2-hour stay in Chicago, I first drove about the fairgrounds, which I don't think are going to be ready for June 1st, but which nevertheless are most interesting. I had a screaming taxi driver who wouldn't let me miss a trick. They are selling Kansas City papers outside my door, so maybe that's where we are. Then, thinking of you and how I must keep healthy, I took a walk with the taxi driving beside me along the lakeshore. Then, completely exhausted, with feet somewhat compressed in my black alligator shoes with heels a good 6 inches high, I returned to the center of town and went into Brentano's to buy this stub pen, which habit I inherited from watching you buy stub pens at Warfield's. Why stub? I've always wondered. While there, my taxi driver comes rushing in, caught me by the arm, and dragged me out to see a beautifully varnished beer wagon drawn by 6 handsome horses drive by. Then I went back and bought this paper, which tendency I also got from you. Oh, we had the most amazing adventure. We were out in the mountains, back of our house, walking with the 2 dogs, far from anywhere, when 2 sort of city slicker types called out, "Hello, girlie." We walked along when a shot rang out from nowhere and skimmed by us. They seemed to have no guns, so we called out, "What's the idea?" And they said nothing. Then a man appeared from his other side with a gun and shot apparently right at us, clipping bark off trees around us. Somewhat all around, we walked on and made a big circle back home, called the police, and one man came up and down into the valley where they were, and they sat with their guns over their knees trained on him. He got their car number and went back to get more police, and while he was gone, they escaped. It was quite an insane experience, because why in the hell would they shoot right at us is beyond me. So it was very exciting. Mein Gott, what a weekend! Left at 7 a.m. Saturday from Hollywood with trunks of food and sweaters. Got to San Pedro at 8:30. Out 25 minutes. Terrible smoke, smell, and discover water cooling system turned off. Turn it on, let motor cool off, start engine, go for 10 minutes circling around. Bottle stops lined up in harbor toward lighthouse at entrance to harbor or exit to Pacific. All of a sudden, motor stopped, wouldn't go. No one very mechanical on board. All the time drifting toward SS Maryland. 50 yards, 25 yards, 10 yards. Skipper goes forward to drop anchor. Not tied to anchor line and line tangled. We bump the SS Maryland, and her commanding officer sends out this speedboat to pull us away from her and, after much talk, consents to send out a mechanic. You can't believe how screamingly funny it was. We all acted as though we'd never been on a boat. Motor bad, ropes tangled, generally merry, etc. The U.S. Navy lower strata were almost in hysterics, and the officers were wild. The commander of the speedboat from the SS came alongside. We threw them a line. They started off, and our tow line proved not to be fastened, so we tied it and threw it again. Then the mechanic and an officer came aboard. The former set to work, and the latter to talk. Our skipper, like an ass, said, "You never thought to rescue K.H.?" "No," said the officer, "nor Greta Garbo," not believing him. Again, alone we set out toward our destination, Catalina Island. Not, I may add, without slight misgivings on my part, which were invoiced. 3 hours later, at 3:30 a.m., with K.H. at the wheel, having been there all the time and sails flying, we sped toward a bay at the Isthmus of Catalina. All my love to all readers of this epistle, and don't look at spelling or style, as my hurry is great. I have been in the mountains for last week and until this Tuesday with George Cukor. I went riding one of the first days on a western saddle and had lots of fun and didn't feel a bit stiff. So the next day I went out alone at about 7 in the evening. The horse was very loath to leave the stable, but I finally managed to force him to. Then I decided that the stirrups were too long, so I got off to lengthen them, and the horse bolted, and I leapt into one stirrup and just managed to get on and saved myself walking home. Then I made him turn around to go to our house, and the stirrups was so long that I might as well have been bareback. I got completely black and blue. It was really very funny. So, the next morning I got up at 4 a.m. to go fishing, alone because none of the house party ever does anything but talk. I had bought a cheap rod and reel and 4 dozen worms. In 4 hours I caught 4, and we ate them for breakfast. They were wonderful. I can't tell you how much I enjoy fishing. It is a most thrilling pastime and a great art. I also am a licensed fisherman in the state of California.
I went to Fenwick, which was in full flower. June, the weather was heavenly. Golf, tennis, swimming, sailing, ever available. The family were there. They were all there, and it was fun.
Wasn't it fun this summer? It seemed like old times. I can hardly believe that I'm back. It did me so much good, especially taking up Double Canfield with Auntie again. I must scoot. Endless love to all. Darling, another note. I'm feeling grander, but a bit bored. Being a walk-on is a bit dull, and I'm not so sure it was a wise step my coming out here on such a slim chance of getting a good part. However, only 13 more days. I long to get back to New York and see what's up and what's down. Thank your lucky stars that you live in the East. Mon Dieu, these cities and people. Frightfully nice, but none of the graceful superficialities which make life charming. I should like to be in Fenwick giggling with you, but this is a fine rest cure. I sleep all the time. I'll call you up when I arrive in New York on September 10th. Huge love.
God sent the hurricane of 1938. The house at Fenwick completely disappeared. Connecticut is home to me. I've been stuck in the snow. I've lost a house in a hurricane. I've tennised. I've golfed. It's been fun. You've got to dream up everything. I had a little theatre which I'd made out of a wooden box. It had a floor with lines cut in it. I could stand the scenery, the cardboard scenery and the actors in the cracks, and I'd make up the stories, and I'd give shows to my brothers Dick and Bob, and they seemed to like it. I adored movies, I still do. I used to bribe Dick and Bob to go to the corner drugstore to buy me movie magazines. That's what I found fascinating. All I wanted was to be a great big hit in the movies. Like my mother, I went to Bryn Mawr College. I was in the class of 1928. I wasn't a member of any club then, but I acted in several plays, which was fun. Before my senior year ended, I'd made friends with a man named Jack Clark. Jack had several friends in the theatre, and he happened to know Edwin Knopf, who ran a theatre company in Baltimore. One weekend, I went to see Edwin Knopf, and he said, "Well, write me a note when you finish college." I finished college. I went to see Eddie Knopf. I found my way in from the front. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a stage door. Eddie Knopf saw me. "Oh, you? Yes. Report for rehearsal Monday, 11 o'clock. My God, he knew me. He gave me a job. To learn responsibility. Each of us has to learn responsibility. Here we are. Live up to your potential. I'd have been able to keep a part, but I could get any part. I just had the knack. I could boil up out of nothing at a moment's notice. Didn't really matter whether I read the script or not. I could arrest their attention. I could laugh. I could cry. I was fast. When all that energy became boxed, so to speak, and it couldn't get out, then I just didn't come off. I was always very aware of whether I was boxed or fluid. I walked to Arthur Hopkins' office. He was at his desk facing me, reading a script. Finally, he looked up. "Hello, dear. I saw you the other night. You were good. I'd like to have you work for me." He reached for a script at the end of his desk. "Read this. The part of Veronica. We go into rehearsal next week, Monday, 11 o'clock. I left. I had a job. The play was These Days by Catherine Clugston.
My darling M, I guess it was lucky that Hoppy was there, though I was amazed at his staying. But afterwards I began to think that maybe he had been more subtle than I gave him credit for being at the moment. Maybe he just figured out that it would be hopeless if we stood there alone trying to say all the things we wanted to, and I am sure I couldn't have stood seeing you standing there all alone as the train pulled out and waving in the distance. So maybe it was lucky he was there. What an angel you were to come down. It made it so perfect for me. And now, riding up the Hudson with the brilliant sun setting over the river, I think that I must be the most fortunate person in the world. I do have such a thoroughly fascinating and sweet and wonderful person for a mother.
Then came Art and Mrs. Bottle. Kenneth McGowan and Joseph Verna Reed were going to do this play by Ben Levy with Jane Cowell and Leon Quatermain. They had already done Twelfth Night. Art and Mrs. Bottle was to be the second play of a repertory season at the Maxine Elliott Theatre on 39th Street off 6th Avenue. Ben Levy, the author of the play, thought me totally unattractive as to looks, as to personality, and as to talent, and they let me go. I, of course, thought they were stupid, and they'd rue the day. Well, they did. I was right. And after a week, they called me back. The season closed. I went to Iverton, Connecticut. Lawrence Anholt and Milton Stiefel ran a very good stock company there. Iverton was where I really learned a lot. They gave me a job as a sort of half-leading lady. I played when they couldn't get someone well-known. I'd done very little at this point in the theatre, but I was sort of known in the neighbourhood because of Dad and Mother. In The Warrior's Husband, I began to feel for the first time like a real actress. My dressing room was on the stage level. It was a charming old theatre, the Morosco, oddly enough right next to the Bijou on 45th Street opposite Schubert Alley, where the big pond had played with my photographs on the outside. It didn't look as though The Warrior's Husband would survive. What next? David Selznick and George Cukor were looking for a girl to play Sidney Fairfield. The movie, A Bill of Divorcement. Clement Stain wrote it.
Ma, darling, this is such a scream. I can't begin to describe it. It's terrific work from 6 to 8, but I'm gathering so many interesting and amusing facts about this business that I can hardly wait to get back to make you all pass out with hysterics. Barrymore was very pleased with me, mentally, physically, and actingly. The director Cukor is grand and utterly ridiculous. Everything is being done with costumes, script, cameraman, etc., to put me over. They are being extremely nice, and I only hope that I can deliver the goods.
I'd got off to a flying start with The Bill of Divorcement, followed by the films Christopher Strong, Morning Glory, Little Women, and then Spitfire, all in the space of 1 year, actually a year and a half.
We're having rather a time with jungle costumes. I'm trying hard to make them let me wear pants and a shirt, and then in distant shots, through trees or in the water, nothing. Personally, I can't abide any of these brassiere and skirt arrangements, but as yet we've arrived at no conclusions. I am also pursued by a gibbon who is the third in 3 came unarmed. He's about 20 inches high and has arms at least as long. He's really enchanting and will certainly run away with the picture. People I'm not scared of because I can only do my best starting on even ground, but I defy anyone to steal a picture from a gibbon. M, darling, what a reversal of affairs. I was being made up yesterday afternoon for a test for 3 came unarmed. A call came for me to go immediately to B.B. Kahan's office, acting president, while Selznick is away. I went, and there sat 3 very grave and important creatures, wherefrom I was informed that since they cared to run no risks with my second picture, they were kicking Anne Harding out of the most star-important part in a story called Great Desire and giving it to me. Briefly, my name is Lady Cynthia Darrington, Lulu, marvelous driver and now interested in flying. In fact, a lady pilot, though aristocrat, a very good sort. I shall send a script almost immediately. You may be disappointed with it, but remember to read it as a movie and not a play. In any event, it's a new idea, and according to everyone's reaction, a terrific honor to have happened. though I don't think it will help my friendship with Anne Harding, who has not been told last night when they told me. Isn't it awful about Earhart? It looks pretty hopeless now. I was convinced, and so was Mr. H., that they would find her, especially with the radio messages which supposedly came from her, since they could only have been sent if she had landed on some little island. It would be too awful if they gave up the search and she was sitting on an island waiting to be picked up. Morning Glory opens at the Music Hall August 25th. People out here have been terrifically flattering about my performance, and audiences love it and howl with laughter and weep and generally do the proper things. So despite a really bad setup, it may produce a good general effect. I can only say I hope so. The press people who saw a preview loved it. I'm trying to have you see it, though I'm not so sure. You would think it a mess. Having surveyed myself with a very critical eye, there seems to be no cause for instant alarm. Thin and pale and wan and apprenticed to a trade I cannot bear. With courage in my heart, I shall try to make the best of all things. Love to all. M, darling, this picture seems to be going on forever. Our new schedule says that it will finish August 28th. Of course, the strike has slowed things up tremendously and made working conditions anything but pleasant, with no one quite knowing what they are doing. The main cameramen stayed, and the rest went on a sympathy strike with the sound men. No one out here knows quite what the situation is, since Hearst keeps it more or less out of the papers, but the studios actually closed for only one day. I have been working very hard every day in hoop skirts, bonnets, and everything you can imagine, which is most tiring, but it's really lots of fun. The script is charming, and the three other Little Women excellent, especially Joan Bennett as Amy. Then Spring Byington is the mother, good, and Edna May Oliver as Aunt March, and Henry Stevenson as Mr. Lawrence, both of them are excellent. Douglas Montgomery as Laurie is just nothing, as Cukor puts it. He says to me quite often, "Well, he's not as offensive as I feared." Ma, darling, everything has shifted around out here, and I am to do a play called Trigger, the story of a North Carolina mountain girl. The play is the same in size of part as Morning Glory, and very much of a character comedy and pathos, and I think quite a fascinating thing altogether. This other, The Break of Hearts, will be postponed until next spring with Lederer and Barrymore's part. The thing wasn't in any shape to be done, so I said that if the shooting script didn't satisfy me, I simply wouldn't do it, and also, having read Trigger, I said I would do it instead.
Well, as one goes through life, one learns that if you don't paddle your own canoe, you won't move.
Dearest Dad, your letters are marvelous. I begin work on Monday with a 5 weeks shooting schedule. I am sending the original script of Christopher Strong. It has been mightily changed for me. Not the general setup, but the character has more of a sense of humor, and I am fighting to have the end changed from intentional to accidental death. I am seeing Selznick on it today. I am still taking piano lessons, and I feel that I have improved somewhat. Tell Dick I'm learning Chopin's 18th Prelude. If I can learn to play it well enough, I shall do so in the lake.
The tale of the lake and my survival was extremely important to me. I learned responsibility to say, "Talk to me, I'm to blame." I at least had the brains to know who was really at the bottom of the failure. Me. I let Jed Harris, the producer, push me around. I didn't say, "Look, I'm the one who has to sell this." I'd learned a lot. Next time around, no one was going to know that I was terrified. The hand on the tiller was going to be as firm as a rock, even if the ship was sinking. The captain goes down with the ship, but he doesn't yowl about it. He just quietly does his best.
I must scoot to Pasadena to fetch Laura. Endless love to all? Right. Read Pride and Prejudice. I'm planning to do it next year with Marion and Peg. RKO is wild about the idea. It would earn them about $30,000 each, at least. A story of 3 sisters. I am so healthy I weigh 1 ton. My face is red. My golf is excellent. I sleep 12 hours nightly. I adore you. For the past week, we have been rehearsing and doing hair, makeup, and costume tests, also writing and trying to rearrange the end of the story. We have 3 weeks of script in shooting form, and though it is against my principles to start work without a finished script, here we go anyway with the hope of opening in the music hall November 29th for 3 weeks. I do hope it turns out well. It is such an elusive story, and all the characters are very odd and yet completely human, sort of exaggerations of people's foibles. The theme of the story isn't as much help as was Joe's growing up and marrying. Dear Stem, I'm sorry to not have answered you before, but I've been rushing so fast that I've had no time at all. You probably know already about Lederer being dropped out of the picture. I have never witnessed such ridiculous behavior. Then Pandro called Walter Wagner, who owns an actor named Charles Boyer, who is ideal for the part. He is by far the best actor I've played with since Barrymore. I had forgotten what fun it could be acting with someone of real ability and maturity and intelligence. We are shooting scenes as we get them, some good, some bad, and no one exactly knows where we are going. I have kept hands off very much because I think I got too near the little minister script rows in bickering to give my best to the acting, which is, after all, what I'm hired to do. This, of course, is very noble of me because I love to have a finger in every pie. Or didn't you know that? Alice Adams was finished 5 days ago. Pandro Berman just called me a long distance to tell me that he had run through the rough cut and thought it the best picture since Little Women, and me better than Little Women. I hope he is right. I love the picture, too. I think it has great simplicity, humor, and sentimental appeal. The cast worked out tremendously well. The director, George Stevens, was excellent. He is tremendously good on the set and always knows what he wants. I am sure that you all will like it. It is certainly more my dish than either whimsy like Little Minister and junk like Break of Hearts. I'm still dressed as a boy, though my hair is getting longer and longer, and when I'm as a girl, all I intend to do is curl what I've got, because I think it would spoil the illusion if I wore a wig. I have realized what this picture is like. It's certainly unusual, but whether it's funny or not, and since it's really a farce comedy in the first half, it had better be funny or we should all be burned at the stake. We are working all night today and tomorrow instead of in the daytime because we're shooting a scene on a stage on the sands. George Cukor is, as usual, lots of fun, and we have a most excellent company. On Tuesday, we came down and went into the studio. John Ford and the Irish contingent had got back on Saturday. They had a wonderful trip, caught 3 swordfish, and all look wonderfully. They are very excited about the Plough and the Stars script. I don't want you to see Mary of Scots until you come back. It plays much better in front of an audience, and the music is not entirely in. Once you get a look at a half-finished picture, you never like it. Dear Stem, it seems set to do Portrait of a Rebel. I haven't changed my opinion. It is a very undistinguished property, badly written and dull to play because the scenes are so cut up. I think, as do most of the people whose point of view is similar to mine, George Cukor and Constance Collier, that it is stupid to play a daughter of the same age as most of the parts that people associate with me. I wouldn't mind this if it were a great play, but in this I can't help feeling that it creates a bad impression. My reason for giving in was that Pandro Berman is convinced that it is exactly what I need for my box office position today. Less interesting by far than the scenery is the script of Stage Door, which has literally no connection with anything. The girl is a $40 million heiress, cast to type again, whose father and mother are very nice and amiable, and whose grandfather was a pioneer in industry. She takes after him in her desire to do something, and can think of nothing better than the stage, for which she has no unusual talent. They have as yet no script, so that I can't send it to you. If you can figure out anything from what I've written, you know as much as I.
I am praying every day that she will get the part of Scarlet in Gone with the Wind. There is no one else who can play the part the way it should be played. That will put her at the top of the world as the greatest living actress. Oh, if only she could get her teeth into that part, she would show them all something they have never seen before. Forgive me for raving so much, but it makes me furious. They are such fools. Here's Scarlet right under their very noses, and they test this one and that one. Oh, no good. I must hurry back to the set. Love to all, M.
1937, Bringing Up Baby. Howard Hawks director. Cary Grant, Charlie Ruggles, May Robeson, and The Leopard. This script was a good one. Cary Grant was really wonderful, and he was so funny on this picture. His boiling energy was at its very peak. We would laugh from morning till night. Cary had always refused to work with The Leopard. He didn't care for that leopard at all. I didn't have enough brains to be scared, so I did a lot of scenes with The Leopard just roaming around. My career had taken a real nosedive. The box office poison label began to appear. I'd made a string of very dull movies: Sylvia, Scarlet Woman, Rebels, Quality Street, Break of Hearts. On the good side, I had done Alice Adams with Fred MacMurray, Stage Door with Ginger Rogers, Bringing Up Baby and Holiday, both with Cary Grant. These last four were very good pictures, but I'd apparently become someone the independents avoided because of the four dull preceding pictures. I decided that I'd better go back east and do a play or something. One day the telephone rang, and it was the writer, Phil Barry. "I have an idea," he said, "Kate. I have an idea. I want to talk to you." "Fine," I said. "Come on down any time." And Phil said that he had two plots, one about a father and daughter, and the second, the Philadelphia story. Oh, that Philadelphia story, I thought that sounded the better one to me. Phil left, and in a few weeks he sent me a draft of the first act. I read it. I was thrilled. I called Howard. I told him I had a thrilling new project. Howard said, "Buy the film rights before you open." And he bought the movie rights to the Philadelphia story for me, which ensured my success later.
Dearest Babe, you better tell Ellsworth to get tickets for you two to Kate's play when it opens in Boston, if you're going. I wrote Jack to find out whether Peg was going or not, and if so, to get her a ticket. Hep has thrown an awful fit about her giving so many people tickets. It cost her $130 in New Haven, so you and Ellsworth take care of getting yours, won't you? I'm just not going to ask Kate to get any, as she always pays for them. We miss you, and how much. Love, Mother.
Oh, such complications. Now all the New York plays want me for December, and I can't go without finishing myself here. I consider it most important for me to do a play this winter, not to be accused of falling for the money out here to the exclusion of the theater. This business is about as shaky as every other, and the important thing, to my mind, is to keep improving as an actress of both mediums, rather than becoming too closely dependent on a company that may blow up any minute. How nice to hear all the news, and how odd to hear it, sitting eating my breakfast looking at the Black Hill and terrifying shape of Edinburgh Castle. We got to town last night at around 6 and drove about, the mist rolling in. Oh, it was terrific. We came as far as Manchester from Coventry Saturday night after the play, and then yesterday drove through the Edinburgh Lakes, and then from Carlisle straight in. It's such an extraordinary experience to be doing a play and seeing this country. Thank God they seem to like the play. I hope that they continue to. This is extraordinary, fascinating, beautiful, awful, all at once. They adore the plays, Merchant and Shrew. They like measure well enough. Kath would be fascinated. The school kids are sent in droves, and in Merchant, when the 3 caskets are brought in, they almost die. Michael returned a week ago. We were disappointed passing through Hawaii, but I was thrilled by Fiji. I must go back to London by the 21st, and we end the 12th of November. And it is so far to come again. Phyllis is on her way to England for a few weeks, and then she'll go with me to do the movie. She writes the most entertaining letters. What a very sweet and generous character. Toby, what in the world is Kangaroo doing? He followed me here and has been visiting all his relatives. This is a huge country, so he has to travel fast. Bet he wouldn't let me ride on his back. Aunt Cat.
When I tested for the movies, it was immediately a warm experience. Exciting, not scary. Why this is, I do not know. I just find this medium sympathetic, friendly. It must be that there's no audience, no critics in the immediate situation, and the camera never talks back to you. It was fun.
Behold, the bridegroom cometh, and no oil for my lamp as usual. A foolish virgin me. Well, foolish anyway. When's it to be? Soon?
About the 1st of May, we planned.
I see. In that event, Mexico would be out, wouldn't it?
One day, in 1950, Sam Spiegel sent me The African Queen by C.S. Forester. I read it. What a story. I was thrilled. We met, John Huston and I. They weren't sure whom they were going to have for the man. But when they began to think of Bogey, there was no one who could compete with him in personality or looks. I kept asking for a script, but none appeared. Bogey, who'd worked with John Huston before, said, "Don't worry, this is the way he does it." "You'll see," said Bogey, "it's worth it." So I went along with Bogey, and he won the award. Summertime was a picture done from The Time of the Cuckoo, a play by Arthur Lawrence. They called me and said David Lean was going to direct it. Would I be in... They didn't need to finish that sentence. I certainly would be interested in anything that David Lean was going to direct. So I said yes, and it was, of course, going to be done in Venice, and Constance Collier, my friend, and Phyllis Wilburn, her secretary, were going to go with me, and I found an apartment on the Grand Canal almost opposite the Gritty. It was perfection.
Dearest Little, I am sorry to be so slow in replying to your very nice letter, but I've been moving from a house I did not like into a palazzo on the Grand Canal just above the Rialto Bridge, and generally working very hard. We start early. I have breakfast 6:30 thereabouts and don't stop until 8, working in and around the little streets and canals. I just get to the location, knock on a door, and say, "May I?" They are so very nice about it. But it is packed, Venice. How's the play? Best love, Aunt Cat.
Spencer and I made 9 pictures together. Woman of the Year, Keeper of the Flame, Without Love, Sea of Grass, State of the Union, Adam's Rib, Pat and Mike, Death Set, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. We never rehearsed at home. We never used to discuss the script. It was curious. I always loved to work on the script about Spence. He'd read something, he'd say yes, or he'd say no. That was it. On Golden Pond was a very good study of the relationship of a husband and wife who they just really like each other. At the same time that I was trying to set it up as a movie, Jane Fonda found it too and thought it would be a perfect setup for her father, Henry Fonda, and herself as the daughter and me as the mother. I agreed, so she arranged it.
Dear Nora, we are still in Wales. It is so beautiful, soft air and water. KH loves it. I hope things are going along with you. Much affection, Phyllis. Dear Nora, I thought the boys would like to see this. It has walls enclosing a town. Let us know how everything is. We return to London on the 19th. This is a lovely place with a big bay and a sea on one side. We both like Wales enormously. Phyllis.
I'm what is called the power behind the throne. I am your character. I'm your fundamentals.
Don't tell any newspaper anything. If you say anything, they nag the life out of you. It's better to see whether I'm lousy or good before I tell them who and what I am. I am treated like Napoleon out here, but don't think it is going to my head. Probably because I'm much too scared of what is going to be the outcome of this next effort, which is really the most important step in my whole career. Yesterday I took all sorts of tests in clothes, hats, etc., which I shall see this afternoon. It is really a tremendous help to both me and the cameraman to discover at which angles I look best and in what types of clothes. Laura and I take tennis lessons 1 hour each every morning from a man named Harvey Snodgrass, who is the most marvelous teacher I have ever had in anything. You can't believe the difference it makes in our general mood. If I begin a day exhausted, I usually don't insult anyone.
I never got very close to anyone in the theatre or movies. I suppose it was because I was a member of a big family and I always tried to get enough sleep.
I have the reputation here for being brilliant and a great wit, so you can judge from that how amazing the social life here is. We never see anyone except at the studio, where we eat every day in the commissary on the lot, and usually have 8 people eating with us before the meal is over. That supplies us with enough talk so that we don't get stale, tells no one where we live, and puts us under no obligation to anyone.
Incidentally, I am convinced Catherine is simply one of the great women of our time. I have never seen a woman less spoiled by her own talents and success. I mean that she has maintained her personal inner beauty, her thoughtful generosity, and her graciousness, which is inherent. No wonder she has riled the mean and envious-spirited ones out here who, despite their pretensions, would give their eye teeth to have what she has preserved despite them.
I have moved to 1330 Angelo Drive, Beverly Hills, California. It is the most beautiful place you have ever seen. 8 acres on top of a mountain with a beautiful pool and tennis court and heavenly lawn.
I was determined to have it be me by me. When I had finished a bill of divorcement, I went to Europe fast with Luddy on the chance that they would call me and tell me that I was a hit. I went to Schiaparelli's, got myself a costume to get off the boat in, just in case. This was my first French outfit.
The trip over was terrific, since we were in the midst of a hurricane and hence were a day late. We walked on the boat and into our car at Cherbourg with only an hour's wait and were in Paris that night. Every day we sleep until noon, then shop and eat, and every night go to the theater. I have finally been to Schiaparelli, bought myself a heavenly long uncut velvet deep mulberry purple evening coat. You'll adore it. A semi-short winter suit, the same color, and 2 very sport short-coated tweed suits. Also, 3 Louis Vuitton suitcases, which are marvelous, and a beautiful old tapestry evening bag. The mink coat, paid for, and my money borrowed from Luddy for trips, paid for. I shall save $5,000 even if I don't do Little Women, and I could have saved everything except our very small living expenses had it not been for the mink coat. Oh, but it is a godsend. For once I am really warm, and with winter coming in out here, it's wonderful to have at night. Also, everyone remarks upon its beauty, and now that we drive a Ford, it's almost a necessity for a woman of wealth. I wear it with great nonchalance. I am sending today a box of things to the kids containing various things. There's a separate blue skirt and a brown one that matches a coat, which I spoke to Marion about. I should suggest that she cut the top off these, which will hoist them up so that they will fit her, and also they are much too long for her. The blue and white hat and shoes were made to go with the Schiaparelli striped dress, which they already have. The cotton dress should also be raised for whichever one takes it. M, dearest, Don't think that this paper's my own idea. A fan sent it to me, but it's all I have. My dear Snooky, this was the tailor who always made Laura's riding clothes, etc. Now they have made my uniforms for the movie. They are unbelievable. The representative, Mr. Lintott, is in New York January 5th to 14th at the Biltmore Hotel. Or you can fill in the enclosed or send a coat and skirt to copy, and then I'll sort of fit for you. The corduroy is a fine color for you, too. Merry Christmas and best love. I will think of you all often. Jack, thank you for your letters, and I am glad you like the idea of the coat. I hope they do as good a job for you as for me, my Russian uniform. Happy New Year, Aunt Cat.
Lord Ogden Smith came from Stratford, Pennsylvania. He'd gone to Grenoble to college in France. He was a fine musician, and he could pick up any language in a few days. It was really his generosity which sent me on my way. Luddy and I decided to get married, and we were married in the Hartford living room. Luddy was always an angel of understanding, luckily for me. I said, "Oh, yes, we'll live in Stratford." And we began looking for a house. Well, my enthusiasm lasted about 2 weeks, and we moved back to New York. Luddy only tried to help me in my career. He took care of me. He'd moved his business to New York just so that it would be convenient for me. He'd always meet the train or the plane when I came back from Hollywood. Absolute generosity, no strings. You just don't find people like that in life. When I left and went to Hollywood, it turned out to be the beginning of the end of our marriage. We were separated, then we were divorced in Yucatan, Mexico.
Darling, everything goes well. I have been shut up in this tiny cabin now since we sailed and feel very much a prisoner of war. We land tomorrow at Progreso and proceed thence to Merida. It is raining outside, which is a very strange phenomenon for this time of year. As far as I know, I managed to sail without fireworks, though you know better than I by now. There's nothing much to say because I have spoken to no one and seen nothing. I eat and sleep well. We shall stay probably 2 weeks. I hope we are not bitten by snakes, tarantulas, or merry widows.
The first real friend I had in New York was Laura Harding. She knew all the sort of highbrow customs of the time, and I learned the way. The Vuitton luggage, the clothes, where to shop, what to buy. When it came time to go to California for bill of divorcement, Laura decided that she would go too. George Cukor was really my best friend in California. We made many pictures together: Bill of Divorcement, Little Women, Sylvia Scarlett, Holiday, Philadelphia Story, Keeper of the Flame, Adam's Rib, Pat and Mike, Cornice Green, Love Among the Ruins, Always Happily. We both adored the business, we loved to work, and we admired each other. George Cukor said once about visiting old stars when they're making up that they're surrounded by any number of empty jars, and they dip their fingers into the jar, and then they rub their cheeks pink, and they rub their lips red, and they rub their eyelids blue. A line here, a line there, a powder puff, the lashes become black, all memory and magic.
Dear Marion and Ellsworth, I received the photos at Christmas very gratefully. It seems all pictures you send have great emotional value. May you all be blessed with health and humor. I occasionally receive nasty notes from Aunt Kate. How she has knocked them. Some girl, and God, what courage. Hope to be seeing you one of these days, and being called back to active service in the Navy. Don't know where I'll be. There's an appreciable difference in salary, but the food is better. God bless you all. Affection, Uncle Jack.
Howard and I were indeed a strange pair. I think that, reluctantly, he found me a very appropriate companion, and I think I found him extremely appropriate, too. He was sort of the top of the available men, and I was the top of the available women. We were a colourful pair. The papers began to put us in headlines. Hughes and Hepburn were married today. I couldn't move from that city without being followed.
How do you like the papers, anyway? Or hasn't any of the scandal gotten down to where you are? If you don't know, the reports not only say Katie is interested in Howard Hughes, but that he has applied for a marriage license. Katie called up yesterday and said that there were large headlines in all the Chicago papers, and that the hotel lobby was jammed with reporters, so she had to escape down a fire escape. Apparently, a report got around that they were going to City Hall to get the license yesterday afternoon, and so many people came to the building that 6 armed policemen had to come in to keep the corridors clear. They aren't married yet, but I don't know. Katie seems to be enjoying it immensely.
I used to fly everywhere with Howard, across the country, here, there. Howard taught me to fly. I took off once under the 59th Street Bridge in New York City.
M, dearest, we flew up here yesterday for 2 or 3 days of golf while they decide on who is to do the clothes for stage door. Flying up was very exciting. We came over the Hearst Ranch at San Simeon, about midway between Santa Barbara and here. It's amazing. I am still sans lipstick. Everyone at the studio nearly died, but Mr. H seems to adore it, so that I haven't the heart to put it on. I feel like a fright. Mr. H wanted to see Morning Glory, so we ran that, and he sat and wept. He said that it was the first time he had cried ever at the theater. I am madly in love with Mr. Hughes, have never had more fun or felt better, and really think I have found someone who, in a way, can measure up to Dad.
My family were not too sympathetic to Howard. He was everlastingly on the telephone. And the telephone was in the dining room, and we were a big family, and we always had visitors. And Luddy was always there, too, especially on the golf course, and he was ever present with his movie camera.
Dear Mrs. Hepburn, I have before me a most difficult task, namely, endeavoring to thank you for your kindness and hospitality on so many occasions. Had I Dick's literary ability or Marion's letter-writing knack, I might give a better account of myself. I cannot begin to tell you how completely I fell under obligation to you. I know that I was far from a perfect house guest, for which I hope you will accept my most humble apology. Your sweetness and cordiality in the face of my many late arrivals for meals, etc., I shall always remember, and I hope that one day you may forget some of my imperfect manners. I send my devotion and entirely inadequate, but nonetheless most sincerely felt appreciation. Howard.
Spencer Tracy is a star of real quality. He is an actor star. He is a people's star. His quality is clear, it's direct. Ask a question, get an answer. No pause, no fancy thinking. A simple answer. He speaks, he listens, he is not wordy, he is not over-emotional, he is simply and totally honest. He makes you believe what he is saying. It seems to me I discovered with Spencer what I love you really means. It means I put you and your interests and your comfort ahead of my own interest and my own comfort because I love you.
Weren't you an angel to knit those beautiful socks in these remarkable heels? They are perfect, in color and fit, for me and for Spence. He was very impressed. If you could know the trouble I have trying to buy decent ones, you would know how pleased I was when I opened your box. You are very sweet, and I am most grateful. Knowing all the things you have to do, I don't know how you ever had the time to knit so beautifully. Endless love. Thank you for the presents.
Each of us who has spoken to you tonight has represented a different field of endeavor in American life. I want to speak about the attack on culture, not because I work in the field of culture. I speak because I am an American, and as an American, I shall always resist any attempt at the abridgment of freedom.
Bye.